sitting out there just revving his car in the middle of the night, and I grabbed a couple of limes out of my fruit bowl and just threw them off the balcony and hit his van a couple of times. And that's really my level of violence right now. Throwing limes at somebody in a shady van from about 50 or 60 feet away safely from a second floor balcony at 4 a.m. That's where I'm at with violence. It's January 8th. Happy Monday. Hope everybody had a good weekend. That was Spencer Growl, the Spencer Growl Band with Celebrate. Back to that the original theme music there. And it's good, man. We got a lot going on. The Golden Globes are on right now. I'm not watching them. I'm a little I'm in Hollywood because I'm here. I'm out here fighting my fight, and doing, I want to put my stake in the ground for my career and my comedy. Whatever those stakes may be, I want to continue to, put those pegs into the soil. But, I feel like the films aren't as good as they used to be for me. And sometimes I don't know if that's because I'm disconnected, if I'm getting older, or if movies are just bad these days. But also, like, Hollywood is sometimes it is so judgmental. It's just so much judgment a lot of times and not as much empathy. Even though it's always preached that there's so much empathy, it's a business. And it's a dirty, dark business. That's what's going on out here in Hollywood. It is. And I think a lot of businesses are, but there's so much money out here that, man, when you add in more money, that's when the dark arts really start to bloom. And they start to just grow up your skeleton like spines. And they grow from your bank account to your heart. And next thing you know, there's these vines that are just wrapped around, just making a Bermuda Triangle, just triangulating you and money and the dark arts. And that can be, dangerous. When you got that much money on the line, danger usually lurks where there's a lot of money. Danger usually lurks where there's a lot of money. So, I want to be well. I want to achieve. I want to succeed. I want to get mine, as they say. And I want to make I want to make money. I want to be successful. I want to achieve my goals. But I often also wonder, how much money do I want to make? Even before I've even made it, I wonder that. What level do I want to be at? I don't want to be where I don't have the ability to still believe in what I believe in. Where the money on the other side of that teeter-totter, on the other side of that totter, is so great that it's peeling me up off the earth, the foundation, the soil of my values and what's important to me. And while I'm still figuring those things out, what's important to me, it can be a scary universe when you're still learning what's important to you and when that money's getting heavy on the other side of that totter. Because it'll lift you, man. It'll lift you. A lot of this business out here, people get picked for celebrity because they're the perfect advertising tool. Companies and these, the Geppettos, the people behind the scenes that are moving these Pinocchios and these Pinocchiatas. They see, this person's the face. This person is the face for this. Let's use them. And that's got to be, it's got to be. It's just wild. There's just a lot going on in there. So I want to always be cognizant in my mind of how much do I need. At what point do I have too much? And I think a lot of that is you can keep, there's a lot of great people out there who seem like they make a ton of money and also give away so much money. You always hear about Bill Gates, that the man spends most of his day these days giving away money. And I hope that, if the powers that be in the universe see that I achieve great wealth, I hope that at the same time they see that I achieve the desire to want to help others and to want to share. Because, man, that'll fill your heart account up. I want that big balance in my aortas. I want my heart to be bubbling with the joy of doing something not just for myself. Because, man, I'll get trapped in myself. I'll get trapped in myself a lot, and sometimes it can be scary. It can be scary. Sorry, I didn't mean to start out on such a heavy note there, but I've had some stuff going on in my life where where I've been kind of in and out of this, dating and this relationship, where, sometimes I'm just afraid to kind of commit to it. And I'm afraid of, I don't even know what I'm afraid of sometimes. I guess I've never been, I don't know if I've ever really trusted somebody fully in my whole life. And I guess it's almost like, how do you even, it's like doing something you've never done before. Like if somebody asked you to, drown yourself in a bowl of gravy, I'd be like, nah, I'm not going to do that. But if they're like, oh man, this is good gravy, and when you get down to the bottom and you can't even breathe or nothing, it's just going to feel awesome. It's going to feel great. I would still be like, that's crazy. Do this gravy have a lifeguard? Where's the lifeguard tower around this gravy? But then that's what I think it is sometimes, of jumping into that. It's why I have trouble getting into relationships and staying committed and staying steadfast. I think just because I've never done it. I've never done it my whole life. And it's not even like, oh, well, just try it. You've dated and you've been in relationships before, but I've never been committed. I've never wanted to know or believe 100% that this can be something amazing. I've never been able to, I don't think. And then, and I want, I feel like I want to, but I don't even know how to. And so that's why I say it's like it's like somebody saying, hey, get down in this gravy. Because I can't breathe gravy. So my mind is telling me, you can't breathe gravy. You're not an amphibian. You're not a gravy amphibian. You can't breathe gravy. But they're saying that it's so good when you have that connection and that, that reciprocated love that you can have with, in a relationship that is, that you can really have in a trusting relationship. And for some reason, for me, it's just really hard. It's hard to just step out into that love, that sauce, that love gravy, and just let myself submerge and go down in there and be in there. And it's just because I've never done it. I've never done it, And that might be a wild correlation, but I'm trying to iterate to you how foreign it feels to me to be in a committed relationship or committed environment. So anyway, some of that's just been on my mind and heart, and we had a caller that called in about it, and I'll play that call right now. And I want to thank you guys for hitting the hotline, and that is 985-664-9503. If you have a thought or idea or response to something that happens during this podcast, if you need help, or if you need somebody to share whatever's going on with your life, feel free to reach out to the hotline and leave us a voicemail. This was that call that came in. Here we go.
This is JP down in Alabama. I'm a 35-year-old male who has been married 2 times now. I'm on my second marriage, and this second one's going pretty successful so far.
This is JP from Alabama. Thank you for calling JP. Onward.
I just wanted to address your fears being in a relationship. I think, really, man, I'm like I said, I'm a fan. I don't want to come off as an asshole here, but I think you're just kind of being a pussy about it, man. As somebody who's been through some bullshit with women, it's always worth it in the end. Seems like it's me, if you get out of it alive, you know. I mean, what's the worst going to happen? You going to get a divorce? Maybe you got a baby you got to pay for or something. Not really that big a deal, man. Life goes on. I mean, you ain't even taking no risk other than your comedy. I mean, you ain't out doing drugs. You ain't out doing alcohol and whatnot. So you might as well take a risk on love, man. If you love this girl, if you like being around her, you need to show her that you want to be around her. Hey.
Yeah, and that was the call that kind of, I guess, had me thinking about that. You know, and I appreciate that call, JP. You know, I love the part that's, you got no real risk, you know, except maybe what? A divorce, maybe a baby. But you know what? I mean, if the baby's a product of love, then yeah, I guess that's not a huge risk. You know, and if you know that you're okay with taking care of a child no matter what, that's not a huge risk. But yeah, I don't know sometimes what it's innate. It's like somebody telling you that you can swim. That's what it's like. Here's the correlation I think. It's like trying to tell somebody that they can swim, but they have no idea how to swim. That they don't even believe that they could even be out in the water. I think that's what it's like, you know. So yeah, but that's a good point. You know, I'm not out here taking, what risks am I taking? I don't know. You know, it makes me feel a little bit, not ashamed of myself, but it makes me feel a little bit like you know, you said it first, like a vagine, bro. Like a gina. You know? Like that warm wallet. You know, like that wild canal. You know, like Joseph Conrad wrote about. You know, that wild canal out there. That whatever it was, that dark river or whatever he was writing about. Yeah, it's just scary. I don't know why it's so scary to me. But you're right. Maybe I got to just get out there and just, you know, I think some of it is when I get into real heavy in a relationship or if I really care about someone, it just, you know, and I know a lot of guys have this, you know, this problem because my friends are talking to me about it all the time. Those intimacy issues. You know, it's just like I just struggle with wanting to be, you know, then it's like I get so much anxiety because it's such a foreign territory that, you know, I just don't want to be intimate. You know, it's almost like I don't want to make that last reach out of my soul, you know, and hit them with that root. You know, I don't want to pop that sex root, you know, and make that big link up. You know, I'd rather dink and doink out here in the wilderness, you know. I'd rather, you know, find a crazy bear back behind a cactus, you know, and pop off a nut. But when it gets, you know, when you're right there and you meet an animal in the woods and y'all are dancing and y'all are maybe twerking and showing each other y'all's real, you know, showing each other y'all's warts and showing each other y'all's dirty wounds and saying things in front of each other you don't say to other animals. That's when I think it's just some intimacy stuff, man. I struggle in that universe, man. I struggle. And it's some of that shit. I think it's just that and dude, sometimes it even goes like, there have been times in my life, even like I've never had a good idea of what my relationship was with people. Even with friends. I could be hanging out with a friend on a vacation. Their family could take me on a vacation with them. And I'm still wondering if this person is my friend or not. Like there's just something, there's some evaluator inside of me that just is constantly unsure if the connection that is very obvious. If somebody else looks over at us and me and my buddy are out there playing in the water, you know, and we're heterosexually out there just throwing a frisbee or throwing a football, it looks normal. You know, they're like, oh, those two kids are friends, right? Sure. Or if we're out drinking at the, you know, Floribama Lounge or whatever, or at some bar, you know, it's like, oh, those guys are buddies. Those guys are friends. But to me, there's some little thing inside of me that just it's always asking me, like, is everything okay with this friendship? Is this a friendship? There's this broken little chip in me. So that's just, I guess, and I'm not depressed about it. I'm at this point in my life right now where I am trying to, I'm trying to go to more like different types of meetings and spend time with buddies and talk about what's going on with some of my fears, so that I'm not just sitting there holding my fears like I'm at this poker game. And I just, and I got a full house of fucking fear. But I'm afraid to even show my cards, I don't want to do that anymore. I want to try and take action. I want to try and take action. And I don't really have a New Year's resolution, but I have, if I just sit there and when I start thinking, I'm no good. When I get into I need to take action. I need to take action. I need to move my feet before I move my brain. Because my brain will outsmart me or will dark art me into thinking that something is wrong. Even if it's not. And I know maybe I'm rambling some here, but that's sometimes sometimes we ramble. Sometimes I just want to be a big girl laying in bed, eating cookies, snacking out, and worrying, and just watching damn Ozark, or watching the new Dave Chappelle comedy special. Sometimes I don't want to have to be this badass. Sometimes I don't want to have to be. But that's, I don't know, that's some of the stuff that's going on. But let me get more positive. Let me try to boost up here. I want to thank everybody from Fighter and the Kid. And that's a podcast where they have this man who is a fighter, and he got beat up, and he got attacked a couple times, and he couldn't fight anymore because his brain couldn't handle it. He was on the brisk of freaking getting that, a brush with that tism, and so his brain, told him, we got to shut it down. And so he quit fighting, and he met up with this other man who's kind of aging, but he's this, a sweet, funny guy, and he got strong legs, the other guy. And they have a podcast. He's a comedian. And their names are Brendan and Brian, and the podcast is called The Fighter and the Kid. And one of them uses moisturizer, and one of them needs moisturizer. And they had me on their podcast this year, and I got picked as the guest of the year. So that was cool. That really made me, that made me feel good because their listeners voted. And so I want to thank everybody who supported that and listened to that. And go listen to those guys if you haven't. Because when I go into that type of environment, I'm just so grateful to be in environments now where I'm just hanging out with other guys sometimes and I'm feeling okay. Because as a kid and a lot of times I don't have that. A lot of times I just have this thing in my brain telling me that something's always wrong. But that was a blast, and I want to thank anybody that voted for me on that and supported me on that. And that's called The Fighter and the Kid, and you can check out their podcast. I want to let you know right now that Gray Block Pizza is on Pico Boulevard on the way to the beach, and they got that hitter. So if you want something in you that's good, go to Gray Block Pizza in Los Angeles, Pico Boulevard. Get that hitter. Also, I have a couple dates coming up. This weekend, I'll be at the Brea Improv in Brea, California. It's Brea. It's like bread, but without the D. Think about it like that. January 8th through 20th, I'll be at the New Comedy Club, Jacksonville, Florida. February 8th through 11th, Harvey's in Portland. February 16th through 18th, La Jolla at the Comedy Store. February 22nd through the 24th, Fantasy Springs Casino out there in Indio. And April 6th and 7th, Tampa, Florida at Rock Brothers Brewing. And all of those links should be up and clickable on theovon.com/tour by Tuesday. Yeah, what a weekend. My Saints won. That lifted me up. My Saints won. I was happy about that. We had some great calls that came in. I don't think what else has been on my mind. I just, just a regular, just life. Just trying to be active. Because that's where I do well. When I get moving, that's where I do well. And try not to be afraid of what's going on. Oh, they had this Logan Paul. I don't know if you heard about this kid, this Logan Paul fella. First name, last. Some people have that last name, first name, where they switch it up. They had this kid in our town named Sanders Benny. That was his name, Sanders Benny. And obviously, whoever his name was Benny Sanders, but they fucked it up somehow. Because all of his siblings had the last name Sanders. And then this fucking whirl of dude has Sanders Benny. I mean, if you want somebody to have, what's it called, where you're dyslexic, why don't you fucking start him right there? And he had dyslexia, this dude. I mean, this dude, you asked him to spin in a circle, you wouldn't see him for probably about 2 minutes. This dude get lost, man. This guy would get lost. He could get lost on a twin bed. This guy could get lost on a twin bed. There's just something, he had that, he's just something a little bit wrong with him. Sanders Benny, but that's what this Logan Paul kid, his name is wrong, first of all. So right out of the gate, that some wrong things might happen to him. I have this belief that things that if they name you a certain way when you're a child, or, babies that are conceived a certain way, certain things are going to happen in their life. Like if you're a dog, if you were conceived in the doggy style position, I'm not going to be surprised if 20 years later you're stealing cars or stealing boat radios and drinking hot vodka. When you're supposed to be babysitting, or you're supposed to be running a children's care center during the summer. I'm not going to be surprised if you were conceived in the doggy style position if you're out there doing that. Snorting Adderall and fucking filling out fake magazine subscriptions for all your friends. I'm not going to be surprised. Yeah, and this Logan Paul kid, he is a YouTuber, and he has millions and millions of subscribers. And we don't have that many. We only have about 19,000. So if you're listening and haven't subscribed, please do. But Logan, he caters, his audience, I guess, is younger, skews younger than him. I think he's 21 years old. So he was in Japan, and he went to a popular place in Japan where it's a forest where people commit suicide. And from everything that I've learned, and I could be wrong, I'm happy to be wrong. No problem with it. From everything that I've learned, or what little I know, suicide in Japan is, there's a lot of honor. People in Japan have a lot of honor. And, and people will commit suicide there, apparently when they feel like they are not living up to the potential of themselves. And I don't know if it's exactly the same why we do it in America. I don't know why. No matter what, it's sad. It's sad when somebody feels that broken, when somebody feels that much pain, that they're going to end their own life. Well, Logan went to a forest where people do this, and he was making jokes, The guy's 21 years old. And a lot of his subscribers and listeners were upset. And people were upset. People were commenting. And I mean millions of people. And apparently, he's now got more followers because more people are jumping on to see what's even going on with this kid. I mean, this is a 21-year-old, and he's growing up, and he's seeing new things. He's in new environments. He probably has an ego. I mean, at 21 years old, you're telling me you wouldn't have an ego if you had 50 or 30 million YouTube followers and everybody thought you was the cat's butthole? You would in a heartbeat. Any of us would. So if he's, making off-color jokes or whatever he's doing, whatever makes him think in his head he can do these things, it could be adolescence. How about that? You ever made a poor choice when you were 21? Every choice I made when I was 21 was poor. And I was poor. So, it's amazing that, and now people who are advertisers saying they don't want to be associated with them, advertisers are bailing. It's I don't understand sometimes why, when the going gets tough, that as a society and as viewers and as an industry of entertainment, that's when we bail, or when things get real. This guy has however many subscribers he has. He makes a mistake. That's when is a good time to learn. I don't care what it is. That is a great time to learn when somebody's fucking up. It's easy to watch somebody just do great all the time. Oh, you're still doing great? Amazing. I don't care about that shit anymore. Somebody that's always great, I don't care about that. You know why? Because I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And here's a kid, he fucks up. That's when we have a chance to learn. You know, that's when people should be like, what's going on here? How do we learn from this scenario? I'm not going to judge the dude. You know, I do a lot of weird stuff. A lot of wild stuff, man. You know, I remember I had a cousin when I was young that was blind, and he's still blind. And I remember telling him there were dragons outside. And until you've seen a blind kid try to hide from dragons in an open field, you haven't seen anything. And I still feel bad about stuff like that, but I made mistakes. I wouldn't do that now. I wouldn't do that now because it's not fun and it's not cool to watch somebody blind try to hide from dragons that they think are real. You know, and we just make poor choices. Like I remember when they had that show, it was like about 17 children or whatever. It's like a religious family that had 17 children. And I didn't see the show much. I worked at Yahoo for about 3 years doing their daily show. And so we would watch a lot of unscripted television, reality TV, and we would make little clickable stories on it for yahoo.com. I used to like Yahoo. Now I think that they are way too biased and they're not realistic. But I used to like Yahoo, and we'd make these stories, and so we watched the show, 17 and Counting. You remember the show. And then something happened on the show. A couple things happened. One, this family had 17 children. They were very religious. And I remember when I did see the show, I was intrigued by just thinking, well, what's it like to be in a family with that many kids? Because you have to talk to 15 people before you even leave your house. So by the time you get outdoors and into the world, are you just fed up with people? Are you what is that like? And would you feel like, are parents able to love that many kids? You know, if you're like the youngest kid, at that point, is there enough love in the household from the oldest children to help fill in whatever, love is too overly divided? Of what are the parents' love that's too divided by so many kids? Are the older kids able to help fill that in a little bit by being supportive of the younger children? These were just thoughts that I had about this show. Well, then some things came out where one of the kids had touched another one of the children. And that's unfortunate. And it wasn't rape, from everything I know, from everything I remember reading, hearing about it. It wasn't, it was inappropriate. And it was children, but it was children. It was adolescent kids. And you don't think I remember when I was young, I would hug my sister too much. I would hug her. I didn't know what was going on, but I would just hug her sometimes. And I felt like years later, I would feel like it was inappropriate maybe. Now, did I touch her? Did I do anything like that? No. But I do remember just having some weird feelings, and it was just because I was going through adolescence. I don't know if I was going through puberty. I don't know what I was going through. But I do remember feeling, just feeling odd or feeling strange. And my sister was young, and so I remember, I hugged her too much. I would always carry her around even after she was too big. It was a little bit just weird, it was weird. I remember walking in on two of my nephews one time who were, touching each other's butts or something, and that was just wild. But they were kids. They were 11 years old. I'm not gonna, they were kids. So I remember when this happened to that family, I remember thinking to myself, man, this is unfortunate. And this show was on the Learning Channel, but I thought this is a great time to learn. Because I bet a lot of families and a lot of people out there have had something strange that happened in their childhood with a sibling that they don't feel like was, or, that they're uncertain about how they feel about it. And that's when they cut the program off. That's when TLC, I think it was TLC, got rid of the program. And I'm like, what the hell? Oh, and another one of the children, the older boy, had just gotten accused of being on like an adulterous dating website, Adult Friend Finder. That's what it was called. And I could relate to that. Surely I'd browse past that site before. You know, I'm no angel, and I wasn't even married, and I'd browse past it. But I remember I met a man who was on it one time when I was working in comedy on the road, and he was so addicted to being on this site and getting in these weird scenarios that I already had enough weird in my life. I didn't need that. But I remember thinking when these allegations came out and these things came out about this huge family, I remember thinking, this is, wow, now the learning channel is really going to be able to help, because this is going to be a great time to learn. This is going to be a great time to see what happens here. But suddenly the show was off the air. These people are horrible. That was the overall vibe. They're not Christian, you know, or because the religion was Christian. And I'm just thinking to myself, what a shitty time to bail. What a shitty time to bail as a viewer. What a shitty time to bail as a network. What a shitty time to bail as someone who's interested or someone who wants to learn when somebody's having a tough time. And that's, you know, and I don't know this Logan Paul kid, Paul Logan, whatever it is, Ted Theodore Logan. That's an old reference to some of you guys, but, you know, I don't know this kid, but when he makes a mistake, that's when I want to tune in. That's when I saw the first video I've seen of this kid. The first video of this I've seen of this boy, outside of the, I watched the one where he was in the forest and he was making fun of the, you know, the body that he killed themselves. Definitely out of line. But out of line for a 21-year-old that has the, you know, that it's probably full of ego and, you know, probably doesn't even know who he is because he's growing up in the spotlight. Not surprised. Not shocked. It would almost be out of line if he didn't do something like that. And this is the time that it's those times when Hollywood's so weird to me. And I know that YouTube, it's not Hollywood, but, you know, probably any movie deals that he had going, like, or things like that were in the works, I'm sure, like, all those people were like, oh, you know, this guy's a piece of shit. But that's when you need support. That's when, as a viewer, that's when I want to get on board. When something real is happening. When I got the ability to learn. You know, because otherwise, all they're showing me is, by pulling shows when things get real, all they show me is, oh, wow, things are real. There's something wrong with that. There's something wrong when, you know, oh, something happens in a house like this with, you know, where the children, something goes awry. Now, maybe the family didn't want to do it anymore. That could be a possibility, and I don't know that. But from everything I remember, that wasn't the case with the religious family. You know, it was just like, oh, this is fucked up. Is it? You got 15 kids in a house? I don't see how you even flip a light switch without touching somebody's ass. I don't even see how you reach for the refrigerator door without grabbing a tit on accident. With 15, 17 kids in a house? So some of that's, it's just so lame. It's just lame. And it's not helpful. When things get real, and that's when Hollywood and people that just are holier than thou, that's when they bail. That's when they bail. Oh, you're bailing now that shit got pretty real? It's supposed to be the learning channel. Oh, now you're bailing? So that's what I feel about this Logan Paul scenario. It's like if you're telling me a 21-year-old made a mistake or did something weird or did something fucked up. Also, if you're letting your kids watch a 21-year-old vlog all the time and you're shocked that they see something crazy, you're telling me that the 21-year-old is the one at fault? You can go eat a can of pickled giraffe nipples, dude, because that's fucking bizarre. That's crazy. That's like trying to pass a square turd, brother. Good luck. Good luck if that's the way you want to live your life. Because I would be shocked if a 21-year-old didn't make some poor choices. That's when I would be shocked. So those are my thoughts on that, you know. You telling me you haven't fucked up? And yeah, maybe your kids shouldn't be watching it. Maybe this is where his show evolves into something else. You know, the kid's going to change. Maybe he's not a kid anymore. Maybe he's not a kid anymore, this Logan Paul. You know? Sanders Benny. I mean, first of all, what the fuck? You named him last name first. What'd you expect? You didn't expect him to get things a little mixed up? Talk to his parents first before you talk to him, I think. What else, man? I'll stay in the news here a little bit. There's someone pooping in people's yards, and I'm not trying to be gross here, but I saw this is on the Fox News website. Do I watch Fox News? No. Do I go to their website sometimes? Yeah. I go to all of them. I used to go to Yahoo. I don't go there anymore. But yeah, a woman was pooping in people's yards out there in Arkansas. This is news? I'm surprised somebody isn't shitting in somebody's yard in Arkansas. You know, I was in El Paso. I'm also be surprised if I saw an article that said somebody wasn't turding out. You know, making a little bit of that growing belt out of their bottom. I'd be surprised if somebody wasn't doing that. It's called the Mad Pooper. Makes vile mess in driveway, Arkansas woman said. What do you mean vile mess? You mean duty? What are you talking about? Vile mess. Is she a sorcerer? Does she have a crock pot? You know, does it have a bird gizzard in it? And snakes and snails and puppy dog tails? What do you mean vile mess? Here's a lady, she said, "We were upset when we found out it was not a dog. It was a person who'd been jogging down the street, ran up between our two cars, defecated, and ran away." Well, at least they did it between two cars. You know, I'll give them that. But yeah, I don't think it's cool to be shitting in somebody else's yard if you're not a dog. So I'd set a trap out there. I put maybe some toilet tissue that's hooked up to some jumper cables. You know what I'm saying? Let's find out. Let's see them shit when they got that electricity rolling through them. Let's see them blowing out their butt when they about maybe 200 or 300 volts in. Because I'll tell you this, it's hard to turd out when you got that electricity on you. You know, I remember we used to electrocute each other a little bit and try to pee, and that was hard. And so I can only imagine trying to go full throttle, you know, trying to deuce up, that things could get a little wild. But that was a little bit more news, man. Oh, here we go right here. Man fighting for his life after chasing a monkey that took his Steelers hat. I'll read it to you real quick. Jeff, a native of Florida. Of course, Florida, dude, everything dangerous happens down there. A lot of, now Florida, you know, definitely pedophiles. First 48 hours, they shoot a lot down there. What else? And Ferris wheels. But Jeff, a native of Florida who lives in Bali, is fighting to stay alive after he fell from a roof while chasing a monkey who stole his favorite Steelers hat. Villagers rushed him to a local hospital where he was diagnosed with severe damage to his spinal cord and is paralyzed from the chest down. No news if he was able to recover his hat from the monkey. Well, he better get used to wearing hats now, unfortunately, because there's not a lot of, you know, hats and scars if you're, you know, if he is, unfortunately, sadly, and I'm not trying to make light of this, but if he ends up quadriplegic or something like that, then hats and scarves are going to be, you know, some of the more popular toppings or accoutrements for somebody like that, or a shawl. So he'll be able to probably get, you know, he won't have to worry about as much. But man, you don't chase monkeys. I'm telling you, you don't fuck with chimps. You do not fuck with chimps, dude. When a chimp looks at you, he looks at you like a Tony Roma's. All you are to a chimp is a place for ribs. A chimp will crack you in half. A chimp will he will eat soup out of your butt cheeks while you watch. They are violent animals. And I watched a chimp. This is true. I was in Malaysia when I was a student. We traveled and we went to Malaysia, and I saw a chimp. This was a Rubenesque black girl. And she was wild. You know how she can be wild. And this chimp came up and stole a bag of chips. And there was a look that the chimp and the girl gave each other. And that girl shrunk down. She knew that she had met her match. And this chimp just straight up chimp. this chimp. He just snatched him. And this girl, Dondra, was her name. And Dondra looked at him, and that chimp looked at Dondra, and Dondra shut down. You don't fuck with chimps, man. Maybe that's what you do. You got somebody shitting in your yard in Arkansas, let a chimp loose. Let's see him. Let's see him. Let's see him out there defecating when they got chimps out there in the yard. You try to shit around a chimp. You will not. We had some great calls that came in. We're going to get to those in just a second. And I want to tell you that I've been fortunate enough recently. I got Chris Perez. We got a Latino gentleman now that's helping with the podcast. And we got Wild Corey. And Corey, I don't know, something, I think maybe he got a, he got a hit of something. He's coming in. He got kind of wild. He got that Boo Radley in him a little bit, but he's adventurous. And he's helping out on the Thursday episode. But what I should have done if I could go back in time, and I still may have to if these fellas don't work out, but what I should have done was go to ZipRecruiter. Does your business have any New Year's resolutions? Well, here's an important one every business should consider. Make your hiring process more efficient and more effective. Oh, you mean faster and friendlier? Yeah. This year, let ZipRecruiter help. No one has done a better job of transforming how you find the right talent than ZipRecruiter has. ZipRecruiter posts your job to over 100 of the web's leading job boards with just one click. No wonder 80% of employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate through the site in just one day. I'm not talking about a man showing up, who maybe doesn't, he doesn't know all the letters of the alphabet, and he, both of his parents are mystics, or or fucking wood wizards, people that live out in the woods and think they know shit. No, I'm talking about a quality candidate. And right now, my listeners can post jobs on ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, for free. Just go to ZipRecruiter.com/TPW. That's ZipRecruiter.com/TPW. All right, let's take a call right here. Here we go.
Yo, Vaughn, I had to just call, man. I heard how many times you run out of gas. Are you some type of goddamn idiot, bro?
Ooh. And she's calling because I've ran out of gas in my life over 30 times. Because I didn't know, and I've mentioned this on a past episode, I didn't know people don't run out of gas. They don't tell you that shit when you're growing up. That's one of the problems. They don't have a class in school that tells you things you need to know. You can't have as much soup as you want, or it'll start coming up and filling up in your throat. You can't just go forever on the first amount of gas you get. You can't babysit kids and lock them in their rooms. They don't there's a lot of stuff that they don't tell you, and they don't have a class on that shit. So yeah, I didn't know that you couldn't run out of gas, and I have done it before. I appreciate you calling. Onward.
Once you get down to a quarter tank, just fill the fucking tank up. How many times you gotta call somebody for help, man?
Damn. A lot of times, actually. I've called a lot of people for help, and it is weird when you call them for help for running out of gas because people think that it's something that doesn't happen anymore. Because I guess maybe it doesn't happen anymore, but let's hear more.
I should smack that goddamn mullet off your fucking head. I love you, man. I would smack you out of love, of course. But fucking Jesus Christ, dude. Like, people don't run out of gas like that, man. You don't just run the car to the fucking, it's out of gas, dude. Come on.
If you risky, you do it, boo-boo. And I stay risky out there. Because who do you want? Think about this, though. And I appreciate you calling. You got a pretty voice and you sound cute. But who do you want? You want a man out there that's riding around with a full tank all the time? Or you want that musky musk man out there who's out there fuming and zooming, Out there pedal to the metal with nothing in the tank, baby cat. That's what you want. I'll pick up a hitchhiker because I don't want to die alone, son. You know what I'm saying? I want to be out. Maybe that's the kind of man you need a little bit. You need to quit riding around with these fellas that got the full tank and got, water in the back and a flashlight. Fuck a flashlight. I got 3 matches. If we don't see it after I light those motherfuckers, then it's going to get us. Because that's all I have. But I'm that wild ride, I'm that loose cannon.
You fucking country bumpkin ass nigga. Come on, I love you to death, though.
Oh, damn, boy. You coming in, man. You like the sugar. You're like the Sugar Ray Leonard of compliments. You hit me and then say something sweet. Because Sugar Ray Leonard seemed like a sweet man, If you look at him, he's a very sweet man. If you hear him speak in person, very kind man. But that man could kill you. And she sound like that. She sound like something sweet that could kill you, She sound like that diabetes right there.
Just fill your goddamn tank up. It's not that hard.
And I appreciate it. You're right. It's not that hard to fill my gas tank up, and I'm going to try to do it more often. And actually, yesterday I was down to like about 17 miles, and I stopped and filled it up instead of taking that risk and taking that chance. So thank you for calling. Let's hear more. Here we go.
What up, Theo? My name is Cole. I'm from San Diego, California.
Thank you for calling, Cole. I'll be down in La Jolla in a couple of weeks, man. So if you feel like coming out to the show, let me know. Talk to you then. Here we go. More call.
26 years old. My issue or whatever that I thought you might be able to speak on, I've been sober about a year, and I guess...
Congratulations, man. My friend just got a year yesterday, and honestly, man, it brought a tear to my eye just because it was cool to see somebody, stick with something and stay committed to it. Onward.
I guess one of my issues has been, like, not being able to stay focused on recovery, like finding a woman or just getting laid or whatever, making that kind of my higher power as opposed to making myself, growing myself and looking to find, happiness and self-worth in somebody else.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you calling, Cole. And this is an exact problem that I'm having right now in my life. I was falling for this girl, and it's just been tough because my foundation in my own life wasn't that good. And I started to put her into this role, like a little bit of like not a savior, but I was trying to build on something where my foundation wasn't solid. That's it. It's as simple as it is, and it's just hard to do. It's dangerous when you got one guy coming out to meet you in the morning saying that the land that you're living on is quicksand, and you got another guy coming out in the evening, another woman coming out in the evening, and she's a contractor. And that's what I was doing. I was contracting on quicksand. I was trying to do blueprints, and I was out there in the Baltic Ocean. And so that's the same thing that I'm dealing with. And for me, I noticed this might not be your scenario, but for me, if I don't get the second one right, I don't get the blueprints right, then it's not impossible, but it's going to be tough. It's going to be a lot tougher for me to stay tried and true into something that in a relationship with someone that I care about. Because if I don't know how much I care about myself or where to go when I don't care about myself, if I don't have like a reservoir or a process, and some people are like, well, dude, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? Well, I'm just talking about that I don't have those things. I wasn't born with those things. I wasn't taught those things when I was young. And so I have to learn them now. I have to learn them as an adult. And that's okay. I'm just I'm a 7th grade adult, man. That's what I feel like sometimes. But I appreciate that call, and I would just, I would try to fight it. And there's other groups you can get in. There's an SLAA group, Sex and Love Addicts, and people in there could talk to you about your problem. I mean, I remember, dude, I was so nervous about dating, I remember, that I was in love before I even went to pick the girl up. If I finally got a girl to go on a date with me, and I got look, you could always catch a little bit of trim, You could always catch a little bit of that hot poke, You could always catch that. That's out there. But if you got a girl you were interested in at all, I was in love before I even picked her up. Because something in my brain it just didn't leave room for things to grow. It didn't leave room for things to grow or things to feel normal. It didn't really matter what our relationship was going to be like. It just mattered how much did I need someone. And then I would latch, I would latch. But it's tough, dude. It's tough. And those, sometimes you're, being sober from women is what you need. And I'm not saying that to you. I'm not telling you that, but I've heard that from other people. That can be the thing. But I appreciate you calling Cole and helping us think about that today. And you're not alone out there. And it's such a beautiful, look, it's not like you're putting something shady in front of your sobriety. It's not like you're saying, you're collecting, Civil War cannons or something freaking, that's, you're doing something, at least you're out there trying to meet women. But I find for me, I'm learning that if I can get my brain and my heart good first, then I'll be able to really thrive out there in a committed relationship and with somebody that I love. And that's something that I'm hoping to be able to do, honestly, dude. Damn, I sound like a straight fucking sack of urine out here today. Boy, I'm getting leaky out here. I'm getting a little bit, just, whatever. I feel sometimes like a wimp talking about some of this stuff. Let's take another call here. Here we go.
Hey, Theo, what's up? My name is Andrew from Prince Edward Island, Canada. I want to address a dark arts.
Thank you for calling, Andrew, and thank you for calling from Canada. And I think a lot of Americans are going to start defecting to Canada soon. And I hope that Canada, you will accept us. We are in a country as men where it's hard to, we're not allowed to have a lot of feelings anymore. We are not allowed to be our innate selves. We are under attack by, this idea of what America is supposed to be like, but we are not but if we speak up about dealing with what America really is like, then we are shunned. So let us know if we can come up there. And we probably need like a new underground railroad, and it's going to be for men escaping to the Great White North. So I hope you'll have us. Onward. Here we go, Andrew. Thank you for calling.
My wife is overweight. I was overweight.
Okay. Wife overweight and you're overweight, or was overweight. Onward.
We both agreed on it. I've lost the weight and she hasn't. In Canada, I want to...
Okay, I'm going to back it up a little bit. Here we go again.
To address a dark arts. My wife is overweight. I was overweight. We both agreed on it. I've lost the weight and she hasn't. And there's no way for me to bring it up without being the asshole or the emotional abusive man. But I'm just not attracted to her and I don't want to fuck her. So I do turn to porn a lot. I don't know. I'm just attracted to a certain thing. And she was it and now she's not. And I don't know how to tell her she's got to get back to that.
Wow. Wow, man. Andrew, thank you for calling. This kind of is almost in a weird way a summation of a lot of the thing. Not a summation, but it's a very specific moment, that kind of equates a lot of the stuff we're talking about. I don't even know if equates is the right word, but you know what? I don't give a fuck if it's the right word. You know what I'm saying. And maybe some of our listeners will have ideas and thoughts about this. And I know you're not asking me to put it out there, Andrew, but I'm going to put it out there. And if you decide to call and let me know that you don't want us to put it out there, let me know that. But, that's heavy. You guys made this deal. You both agreed to lose the weight and you lost the weight and she didn't. And now you don't feel sexually attracted to her. And so you're going to pornography. Man. Because I know once you get trapped, if you get trapped in pornography, that can be tough. And that's something obviously it doesn't sound like something you want. It sounds like something you're upset about. Man, how do you bring that up to her? The only thing that I could think is that for one, you just try to love her. You try to love where she's at. You try to love her. You just be loving. In the moments that you are interacting with each other, you just be loving. It's probably not going to be easy. Maybe before you go in the house each time you get home, you just take a moment, a pause or something, and remind yourself that you want to be loving whatever that means. Even if it's not for, you can be loving to her, but it's not really, even if that's for you, just to not get in arguments, to not have give her weird looks or to behave weirdly towards her, you know. And maybe I'm thinking that you could try to inspire her in other ways. You know, maybe do some joint classes together or something like that. You know, with that said, over time, if that doesn't change and you're not attracted to her, then you decide, well, how long do I stay in this environment? And how long does will she want to stay in this environment? Because then what happens is, I've noticed that you can start to, one of you guys will start resenting the other one. Or both people can resent each other. Yeah, that's a weird little pond to wade in, bro. And maybe some of our listeners have more experience with that. You know, and it's tough because you want a partner, and I want this. I want a partner that you know, inspires me. I want that. But then I have to be that. You know, I have to be that at the same time. I don't appreciate this call, man. This is, you know, this got a lot of stuff on it because then you don't feel sexually attracted, you know, and it's wild out there. It's wild out there in them dick and heart streets. This shit ain't easy, pop, pop. But if you guys have thoughts or suggestions for Andrew, let's hit the hotline, 985-664-9503. You know, his wife has a physique that is not attractive to him now. You know, they've discussed fitness. She hasn't done it yet. And he is resorting to pornography. And then I get scared for you because pornography, boy, that's that booty trap. And you get out there and they got ladies spraying milk out into each other's mouths and, you know, dressing up like swans and, you know, catching us, you know, chewing gobstoppers with their buttholes and everything. And it's wild. And that can be, you can get crispy out there. You can get really crispy. Let's take one more call here. Let's see where we're at. We're kind of lifting up in time a little bit, but let's take maybe more than one. Let's see what we got. And I appreciate you guys' calls. You know, and I probably would have talked about more of exactly what happened this past weekend, but I did go. You know what I did all weekend? I stayed committed to what my plan was. You know, I had a couple meetings that I went to in the morning each day. And, you know, I talk about like some of these AA meetings and different men's groups and shit that I go to. And look, you don't have to be able to relate to me on that. This podcast isn't for sober people. This podcast isn't, I don't give a fuck who this podcast is for. You know? I mean, I do in the sense that it's for, you know, it's for us, man. It's for us to laugh and feel and try and be able to do the same too at the same time. You know, because so much of my life on the outside has been at times sad, and on the inside has been fun. And on the inside at times has been sad, on the outside has been fun. And that's what life is. That's what it is. You don't know which one, and for me, I never knew which one I was going to get when. And I never knew how I was going to react. If the world was good, I didn't know if I was going to feel okay to even enjoy it. And most of the time I didn't. You know, but this is a place where I can talk about that. You know, and I know sometimes this podcast maybe isn't the funniest and shit, dude. Well, you know what? I'll fuck your cousin, bruh. All right? I don't even give a dang. I don't care if it's a man or a woman, dude. And I'm not even gay, bruh. So now what? You bend your cousin over, put a sheet over him, okay? I'll run up with an erection. Right when I get there, you pull the sheet. Bam, I'm inside. And I don't give a damn. I don't give a cat's fucking whisker fart. I don't care. I'll fuck your cousin, dude. If you're going to be rude, I'll fuck your cousin. And that's just where I'm at. You know, because I'm just whatever, dude. But Andrew, I appreciate that call. Let's take another call here. Onward.
Hey, Theo. Johnny from Cleveland. Quick.
Johnny from Cleveland. Big J from Cleveland just went 0-16. Your football team went 0-16. Why have a team? Pick a different sport, dude. Don't you realize that? Cleveland Browns, if you went 0-16 at football, pick a different sport. Maybe y'all are baseball team. Maybe y'all are synchronized swimmers. Have you thought about that? Maybe you guys should do baking or woodwork. You know, did everybody graduate from shop class? I'm just saying, if you're not good at football, then don't keep doing it. Do something else. Make a new sport. What about violent chess? I could see you guys out there. Knight takes pawn with a fucking leg drop. I'm just saying, Cleveland Browns, if you're not good at football, then be good at something else. Try something else. Onward, Johnny.
Quick topic for you. Chicks getting on dating apps and looking for that sugar daddy. Basically, putting yourself into odd sexual situations that most people wouldn't usually do, you know, if they were financially stable. You know, in the old days, I guess you just had to go out on the streets and prostitute yourself, you know. Now that's becoming less and less. We do it all over the internet. People are hitting these dating apps, really just looking for money. You know, on Tinders, you'll see that people just put their Venmos in there. They won't tag their Instagram, they won't tag their Twitter, but just toss their Venmo in there. It's like, all right, see what you're doing there, see what you're looking for. You know, it's that.
Okay, I appreciate the call, and you're talking about girls that are, you know, just being sugar daddies, and a lot of them are out on Tinder. And I'll tell you this, a lot of them live out here. And I think it's always been there, some type of prostitution at some level. It's very vague. I mean, for Hollywood, who also has, you know, there's a lot of women's rights movements and stuff like that. And look, no one supports a woman more than I do. I mean, you know, I grew up watching my mother work 50 hours a week. So that we could eat, you know, and I didn't even get to have my mother because she chose to work instead of collect welfare because she wanted to show just by example, you know, and for that we had to sacrifice emotional connection. So I support, there was, you know, but there was the hardest working man I've ever known is my mother. You know, my mother works hard and so I support the movement. The idea that women need to feel empowered. But at the same time, you have all these women who are, you know, all these sex accusations and this and that. At the same time, here in Hollywood, you have billboards up around town for sugar daddy websites, which are basically websites that tell women, that connect women with men with money in exchange for a vague scenario where one is expecting sex, possibly, and one is expecting money, possibly. To me, that sounds dangerous. If a man shows up and he doesn't know what he's supposed to be expecting or giving, and a woman shows up and they don't know what they're expecting or giving, how is that creating positive and how is it's not even a clean interaction? That doesn't sound. Look. If I have a daughter one day, she chooses to be out selling her body for sex. You know, God forbid, that's not something that I want. But if she's if that's where she's at in the world or in her life or something that's going on, and it's a straight up deal. You know, I mean, this is such a weird thing I got myself into, but I would have to support her. Of course, I'd be trying to get her into self-help groups and different types of things and stuff like that, and getting her out of those dark arts. But to have a daughter wandering into a place, not knowing what to expect, money's maybe on the table, sex is maybe on the table, fuck, that sounds scary to me. And those billboards are all over Hollywood. So that's where sometimes I'm just like, Hollywood fails us when the idea is one thing, but the reality is something else. Or something that they don't want to, or when it gets real, that's when there's no one talks about that. No one talks about that. Because advertising is just an extension, and PR, press, the newspaper, it's all just an extension of Hollywood. You know that. Most of it. But yeah, it's scary, man. And it's a lot of women are out there doing it. And do I fault them? I don't fault them. You know, I know some that seem to be able to do it healthily. And I know some that have gotten involved and seem like they can't. You know, I know some that are, I have friends that are out there that are addicted to those websites, that are meeting up with women 2 and 3 times a week. You know, these sugar daddy websites. But, you know, I don't know. I mean, prostitution's been around since the beginning of time. I don't think that it's bad. I don't think it's bad if it's a clean deal. I think it gets sketchy when you're not sure what the circumstances are. That seems sketchy to me. All right, where are we at here? You know, we had a couple more calls. I'm gonna put this one call in, and this call came in a couple weeks ago. And I'm gonna be in Jacksonville next week, so I just want to put this in. And so just give us something all to, you know, if you want to get out of yourself, you're already thinking about yourself so much today, and you're sick of yourself, because I get there sometimes. I'm sick of myself. I just want my brain to stop thinking about me, but it won't. Here we go.
Yo, Theo, my brother from another mother. I got a high school sweetheart. I lost my virginity to her.
Ooh, man. Dude, there's nothing funner sometimes, honestly, even if it was a fiasco. Dude, I remember, I mean, everybody has a wild virginity story, and I kind of lost my virginity a couple times because I couldn't lose it, because every time I would get right up by the, you know, by that you know, my body would just spray out. Dude, I remember one time I fainted, dude. Just came so hard, just, you know, woke up, you know, minutes later, dude. And, you know, I've always had them, you know, I've had that fainting goat syndrome. I've talked to you guys about it before. Where I get so much anxiety during sex, I'm just holding my breath and just fucking away like a little goat, and then I'll pass out. Well, but sometimes nothing's funner than thinking back to them days when you're out there just, you know, when you was just 70% nuts and cock. You know, when your whole body was fueled by this little metal detector, but the metal was chicks and tits. And you was just detecting it everywhere, dude. You know? Wow. I mean, I'd fuck a woman's haircut if it had a wet barrette in it. You know what I'm saying? That's where I was at. But let's hear more of your call.
And as soon as that happened, she fucking flippy-flopped, and she cheated on me. Her and that dude ended up getting knocked up while she was still in high school. She married him, popped out another kid, but he...
Okay, so you were dating a girl, you lost your virginity to her, then she hooked up with another guy and had a child, still in high school. Woo! This could be Arkansas. Is she shitting in people's yards now? Let's hear more.
He's a piece of shit fucking car salesman.
Yeah, I mean, there's some rough car salesmen out there. Unless you're down in Natchez, Mississippi, I got a buddy named Gulf South Auto. He works over there, the Deal Daddy, and you should go see him. He's a decent man. Decent fellow over there, Deal Daddy. Onward.
You know, that's just my opinion. You know, not all car salesmen are assholes.
That's true, dude. There's probably 4 or 5% of them that's decent. Onward.
Thing is, every 2 years, she hits me up, and she's like, oh, hey, you know, fucking, getting separated and shit. And then we just have a blowout, and then, you know, stops talking to me, and then hits me up in 2 or 3 years. Yeah, I don't know. Am I wasting my fucking time? She keeps saying she's getting separated.
Well, dude, look, man, you know she's not getting separated. If you've done this a few times, you know she's not getting separated, bro. You know, don't be my used car salesman. You out here trying to sell me this used car of a story here. And I'm not mad at you. I still love you. But come on, man. You know you just taking that thing for a test drive every couple years. And y'all meeting up behind the Sizzler, behind whatever, behind that Walgreen. And y'all out there testing each other's crotches out for a half hour. You know, we're fucking real quick somewhere about a day's in. Come on, man. I've been out there. So you know she ain't getting separated. This is a lemon of a car, this story you selling me here. So look, I think both of y'all are using each other for what y'all are using each other for. And I think you should be grateful enough that after that bad poke you gave her, that first run, that first, you know, hit with that thunder stick, that she left you after, you know, that she's giving you other chances to make up for it with another couple lightning strikes. I think that's all it is, man. So I think just, it seems like both of you guys are on the up and up and dealing with things. I would just be earnest with her. If she gets real, then you get real. But don't lie. I just try not to lie if you can help it, man. And if you can't help it, at least try to be a really good person while you do it. Because sometimes you just can't help things. But that's it today, man. I appreciate you guys calling. I'd love it if we had some thoughts for that, for Andrew, who's no longer too attracted to his wife. If you want to hit the hotline, 985-664-9503. I want to thank you guys for being supportive. I want to thank my boy, Chris Perez, for being out here and getting it done today. And just want to wish you guys well. If your team's still in the NFL playoffs, come get these Saints. Because we're going to do something. Alvin Kamara, boy. And I'm excited to see these games next week. Good luck to Jacksonville. My boy Calais Campbell out there getting it done. He gives the best post-game interviews, and they got a good squad. And if your team lost, that's okay. You got time to chill. You'll be in fantasy next year. I'm excited to see what sport the Cleveland Browns play next year. Thank you, JP, for calling in and telling me to stop being a and I'm going to try that. I'm going to try not to run out of gas this week. Cole, if you want to be sober, be sober. Right now, whatever you're doing, it doesn't seem like it's your primary goal. It could be one of your goals. But look, I'm telling you from a guy I've made it not my goal. And guess what? It's not my goal. So when it's your goal, it's your goal. But as long as if you make an inch towards it every day, then it's still a goal. You just got to make an inch. Andrew had some adult sex this weekend. Doing that. So that was interesting. What else happened, man? Had some great comedy sets. Larry David was at the Laugh Factory the other night. We'll talk about the Golden Globes a little bit. And what else, man? The gun. They had the gunman in Fort Lauderdale. Jeez. I fly in and out of there, man. That was nuts. But right now we're right here. It's us, man. This past weekend, dude. Yeah. That's Wiz Khalifa. We them boys, man. I'm amazed. That guy's always high. Wiz Khalifa, always high. I don't know how they do it, Black guys so good at smoking weed. So much better, I feel like. My black friends they can get high, do regular life. I get high, not doing regular life, man. Incapacitated. In high school, I remember I would go out with my friends. I'd get high. I would lay in the car all night. We would go to parties. I would be in the car, asleep. My big thing used to be to urinate in people's trunks or in this one guy in high school, his dad used to sell sunglasses. And I would always urinate on all of his samples. Oh, God, I feel bad about that. Yeah, I would urinate on the dad's samples. I don't know what was that. Man, I used to urinate on everything. But I'm feeling better this week. Last week I had that flu, that stomach virus. That's gone out of my system. So that feels good. If you're sick, man, hold it together. Hold it together. Sue whoever gave it to you. Sue whoever gave it to you. Yeah, so let's crack right into it, man. This news story, unbelievable to me. Sleepy Uber driver suing everyone. Okay, there's a guy, a driver. He fell asleep. He was falling asleep at the wheel, so he let his passenger drive. He asked him to drive. It was a long trip out of New York. And then the driver, Robinson was the guy's name, awoke somewhere around Binghamton, New York to find his Good Samaritan passenger, Carlos, 20, speeding on Interstate 81. Robinson begged his passenger to pull over, but Carlos responded, "The police are chasing us." I don't even know what kind of Uber driver, I guess you get tired, yeah. Hey, you want to take the wheel? That's teamwork, actually. I mean, it's a little bit of teamwork, but that's alarming to me, I think at that point you pull over and you let the guy get another Uber if you can't handle the game, You're not a real Uber driver if you can't handle the responsibility. a boxer isn't in the middle of his fight and he's like, I'm just kind of not doing well. I'm not winning. Why don't we let somebody else who feels like fighting right now fight? You don't do that. So this is unbelievable to me. The car was completely totaled. The Hyundai Sonata. They totaled the car, smashed into a guardrail in Colesville, New York. Robinson lost his driver job. Carlos was charged with unlawfully fleeing a police officer. And there you go. That's it. So if you're having a shitty Monday, at least it's not that shitty, huh? At least you're not either one of those guys. Dude, I remember I used to fall asleep at the wheel all the time. I don't know what. I think I might have beat narcolepsy at some point. Because when I remember when I was a student driver, I had to drive somewhere. And at some point, I just told the dude, bro, I'm falling asleep. He's like, it's 4 p.m. I'm like, yeah, well, when nap time calls, bro, dormirse, it's time for daddy to duerme. And he let me rest in the back seat. He took me home. I didn't fail. I'm still driving today. Another time I fell asleep at a stoplight, Madisonville, Louisiana. A cop wakes me up. He goes, did you call in a report about 2 wolves fighting in the street? And I was just baffled. I'm like, no, I didn't do that. I was bummed that I missed that. I fell asleep. I fell asleep at the wheel, dude. And according to somebody who called the police, 2 wolves were fighting. Wolves. I never saw a wolf in Louisiana ever. But somebody called them into the police. 2 wolves fighting at an intersection. Unbelievable, man. So here we are, bros. This is it. It's Monday morning. I'm trying to think of what's going on. This past weekend was good, man. It was good. Spent some time with friends. I'll give you a little emotional update. I'm feeling pretty good. I think I'm 30. What am I? So many days off of the pornography. Let me check in right here and see. I'm a decent amount of days off the pornography. I got my little porn clock on my phone. I am 33 days pornography free. Feeling good. Feeling heavy in the cack. It's coming in. It's coming in because you get desensitized. You get desensitized by the pornography, man. I was, and I wasn't like a crazy, but I think just like any other dude, you come home at night, you're single, maybe you tap into the internet. The internet's there. It's waiting for you. It's waiting for anything you want to get nasty, naughty. You want to gamble. You want to bet on hookers. You want to do whatever you want. The internet. So I'm off of that, man. I'm off of that. 33 days and feeling pretty good, man. Feeling pretty heavy in the cock these days. Fired up. I don't know why I got into porn when I think about it. I remember the first time I ever saw any pornography. My brother, I remember in his closet I found some pornography magazines and some peach alizé. That was a liqueur. And next 9 minutes later, bro, I was drunk and exhausted. That's all I remember, dude. Spraying out like a young buck. And that's really, I guess, where I started any experience with pornography. And then, when you're not in a relationship or something, you kind of stick with it, I guess, here and there. I don't know. But I'm off. It feels good. If you're having an issue with it, man, take a break. Take a break, bro. Let your imagination key up a little bit. Let your imagination fire up. I got some coffee. I'm going to throw some dates at you really quick. February 26th through 29th, I'm coming to Virginia Beach Funny Bone. I'll be at the Schaumburg Improv in Chicago, February 2nd through the 4th. Last time I was there, I saw Mr. T preach at a church. I pity the fool who don't find Jesus. I'll be at the Comedy Works South in Denver, the 23rd through the 26th of February. Dude, I did an open mic tonight. Stopped by the Improv to pick up some footage from a show the other night where I headlined a show, and they had open mic going on. There's like 40 young comics in there. They're drawing names out of a hat. And Jamie and Paige, the people who run the place over at the Improv, they're like, do you want to go up? And I was like, no way. I was so nervous. I mean, it took me back to whenever I first started comedy. And I actually did my first set on that very stage at the Improv. But I was so nervous, man. So I sat there for about 15 minutes and watched the young guys do it, and then I got up. Tried some new bits, some new thoughts. What else? My buddy got bit by a gay guy. Dude. So I guess it's a public service announcement up there by La Brea and La Brea Boulevard and Santa Monica Boulevard. Filipino dude, huge legs, big quads, open mouth. If you see that dude, you know, he's out there. Bit my buddy good. He got bit by a gay guy. So we'll see what happens, man. We'll see how that shakes out. Oh, what else? Sleepy Uber driver. It reminded me of a time I went to school in Charleston, South Carolina. And I used to spend some time over there. I actually hitchhiked up there chasing a girl. Not like a stalker chasing a girl, but, you know, I was in love. I was in young love. My girlfriend had broken up with me, so I knew she was there, and I hitchhiked. I was at a sailing regatta in Biloxi, Mississippi. Some people said they lived in Charleston. I said, you got an extra seat? And 14-hour car ride later in a Suburban, brother, I showed up. Middle of the night. I remember I even walked. This is stalkery now that I'm reciting it. I walked to my girlfriend where I knew she lived because we'd been corresponding via mail. Those are the days, dude. Love letters. Corresponding via mail. I walked to where she lived. It's like 2 a.m. because we got in really late. And I'm standing out on her porch. They had a cat there. I'm petting this cat. And it hit me like, dude, you need to get your act together because this girl doesn't know you're here. You're standing on her porch petting a cat. You don't even know if it's her cat. And she didn't like me anymore. So that was kind of a wake-up call. That was a little bit alarming, you know. So if you've ever been in that scenario, I feel it. I feel you, you know. I feel ya. I feel how it can happen. It can happen, bro. We all got a little stalker in us. You ever done some stalker stuff? Let me know, man. So this podcast, I'm putting it out this past weekend. It's just, you know, it's developmental. Last week, people told me the audio, the volume is too low. Try to turn the volume up, okay? So I'm trying that. What else? They told me to stick with it, so I'm trying that. We're going to get to a point where we're going to have video as well. We're going to have maybe some call-ins, maybe some guests, but we're just starting out. So if you have any thoughts, ideas, whatever, let me know. You know, I don't know how to get better without help. You know, that's where I'm at in my life. The only way I'm going to get better is if people help me. So if you got some thoughts, throw them my way. Golden Globes were on. I watched the intro. I watched some sporadic spots throughout it. The intro was awesome. I thought it was exciting. I thought Jimmy Fallon did a good job. The big thing on the internet is the Meryl Streep speech about Trump and about the, you know, diversity and this and that. Personally, I'm just sick of Hollywood. I mean, this was, you know, a bunch of well-to-do people really patting each other on the back, you know, in this beautiful event at the Beverly Hilton. And I you know, I don't want to hear about that stuff. I don't want to hear about it. I'm honestly kind of sick of everybody just, like, we get it. Like, if you're the guy you did or the lady you wanted didn't win, we get it. But what, you know, just there's bigger issues. There's real issues that people are facing. You know, I mean, it's not like Trump's blown up the White House or, you know. So then they keep bringing up all this Russia stuff. Fuck Russia, dude. They were giving out dirty water at the Olympics. That seems like more of an issue. You know, that seems like more of an issue to me. But no, people want to, you know, mainstream media. It's just bizarre. It's baffling to me. I was happy to see the hate crime that people labeled that as a hate crime. They had the four people beating up the retarded kid mentally challenged kid. I don't want to say retarded. That is, yeah, that I agree with. That needs to go sometimes. Beating up the mentally challenged kid. That was gross, man. That was gross. And it's tough because they don't want to label, you know, a hate crime that it can be against white people, but it can, you know. And so I think it's nice to see that we're at a place of equality where where anybody can be a victim of a hate crime, bro. I really felt that was it needed to be, man. It's gross. That kind of stuff's gross. I mean, I don't know how people get so broken, man, that they can't put it together. They can't put it together. I don't know. Fuck if I know, dude. I'm listening to Wiz Khalifa. It's 1 a.m. I'm drinking coffee. What am I even doing? Had some adult sex this weekend, man. Had some sex, bro. And it was chill, dude. It was chill. I haven't really been engaged in a lot of sexual activity because I'm really just kind of keeping it chill, trying to get my feelings in order, because I'd like to have a wife and a family and that sort of thing. So you got to really, at a certain point, wrangle your desires in, because you can't be just spraying out everywhere across town if you want to, really kind of care about somebody or have some feelings. So I think it was a pretty decent practice, man. I got some sexual anxiety sometimes, but I think I really gave it a good run. Two consenting adults doing some adult sex. So I feel like it was good, man. Just basic sexual positions, nothing really randy. I've had a crazy kind of sexual past at times. Lost my virginity behind a bowling alley down there in Louisiana while some kids were throwing rocks at us. So I don't know. I mean, that's a hell of a way to start off catching some trim, Yeah, some kids were throwing rocks at us. We were doing stand-up sex behind a bowling alley. It wasn't the shady bowling. It was the only bowling alley we had. Every bowling alley is pretty shady, I think. Especially every small town bowling alley. But they didn't have a really good menu inside, I remember. But yeah, so very Middle Eastern almost. People dodging rocks and trying to maintain an erection at the same time. That was my Iditarod. As far as I'm concerned, growing up, bro, that was my Iditarod, dude. What else? I've had some other crazy experiences over the years. I'm trying to think what pops in. I actually got a blowjob over there in Pittsburgh behind the Giant Eagle Grocery. Only blowjob I ever got pink eye from. I don't know how I got it, but I'll never forget that. Never forget that, man. What else? What else happened this past weekend? I got nervous, man. I did a set at the Laugh Factory the other night, and Larry David is sitting there, and I can see his silhouette, the white hair, the Bernie Sanders, this vibe, and I'm performing, and I'm trying to do my best. And I don't know, he'd been there for a while. It was late when I got on stage, about 12:30 a.m. So, and at some point, I think towards the probably 75% of my set, he got up, and I don't know if he left or he had a date, or so it could have been his wife. I don't know what his scenario is, but he left. So I don't know, and that stuff rides on you, when you're a performer. You're like, did he leave because of me? Was he already gonna leave? Was he, So, but it was cool to see him at the club. Everybody was pretty excited. I've never seen him at a comedy club before. What else? Got to see Bill Burr perform this weekend. Awesome, always phenomenal. And it was just a great weekend, man. It was a great weekend. Let me think about what else happened. Oh, how symmetrical is everybody at the Golden Globes? You see it? Look at all the face, symmetry. That's what you need. If you want to make it in Hollywood, look at your face. Is it symmetrical? Not mine, dude. My nose is a little off. One of my nostrils a little bigger than the other. One of my ears, I think, might be kind of a dangler, I think my eyes, one of them kind of goes a little bit of a different direction, dude. Not symmetrical. I don't know what grade I would get on my face, man. I don't know. I know I'm about an 8, looks-wise. I'm about an 8. If I take care of my teeth, I'm an 8. And I'm okay with that. I feel like I try to live in reality. Especially when it comes to my looks, man. I mean, especially growing up, I hated the way that I looked growing up, man. I had these huge spaces in my teeth, and it just made me feel, I don't know, I was always embarrassed. I had the worst acne in junior high school. I mean, I had like, if I smiled big, like a pimple would burst. I just had all these just pockets of just sebum and just whatever gets in your face, just disenchantment. just flying out of my pores. And you're going through those weird years too around puberty when you're going through puberty and there's like, you could grow like 2 inches in a week, you know? So next thing you know, your neck's real long and your shirt that fit on Monday doesn't fit on Saturday. You know, you got half your friends look like velociraptors. Like, there's just some weird times in there when you're going through puberty. But I had, I had some severe acne. Hated the way that I looked, man. I think I'm getting better with it now as I get older because you start to realize that you're just stuck with how you look, you know? I mean, unless you want to get plastic surgery, which is pretty popular out here and everywhere, I guess, these days. I remember in 6th, 7th grade, they had 2 girls. We had these groups in our school, and 2 girls got nose jobs, and they were both sitting at my group table in this art class. And they both came back, I think, from Christmas break with like these, you know, bandages on their nose, and I just thought it was like, wow, like, you know, that's a real thing. People can really get it. You know, I didn't know that because I grew up in my other town that I really grew up in. Like if you had a deficiency or, you know, a facial malfunction or whatever, that's where you were, you know. There wasn't, I mean, I remember this one dude, this dude was like an adult, but he broke his clavicle or something, and they just tried and fixed it right there, you know, and his shirt just never fit right again. He was always that dude whose shirt never fit right. You know, because he was kind of missing a shoulder. They just didn't set it back correctly. And he was just, I don't know, bizarre looking. Another dude, I remember this dude was an Elvis impersonator in our town. Like we needed a fucking Elvis. You know, we had 2,000 people in town, bruh. We don't need an Elvis, dude. We need gas money and we need ideas, okay? You're an alcoholic, brother. But he was an Elvis impersonator in my old neighborhood. But he was an Elvis impersonator, actually, when I think about it, not really by nature, or not by nurture, but by nature. One or the other. What happened was he had broken his hip. I don't even know if I told you guys this story. He'd broken his hip, and to save money, they set his leg, like around the top. Maybe he'd broken a bone in his thigh. It could be a femur. And to save money, they set it in cement. So, and it healed up fine. But when they broke the cast off, they broke it with a sledgehammer, re-broke his leg and hip in about 9 places. So after that, he always had this little wobble, a little tick-tock in him. And he went into Elvis impersonation right after that, you know, because he had that hip sway just built in. You know, lean with it, rock with it, lean with it, rock with it. So, you know what I'm saying, bro. Yeah. We them boys. Hola. Small town Elvis impersonation, man. What else? The Limited. I just heard that the clothing company shut down, bruh. Dude, I grew up. The Limited, they had a partner store. Limited was where the ladies went, bruh. And all the ladies wore the Limited. You know, if you had a little bit of dime, if you had a little dime in your pocket, if your mother had a little bit of cash, you got something from the Limited, man. That was the first fancy store ever around. And they had a men's store called Structure. Anybody ever wear that Structure clothing, man? That shit was fresh. Dude, I remember we used to go camp out the mall. Now, the mall by me was probably about 17 miles away. So we would go on Friday, go to the mall Friday night. And then we would camp out outside, just in tents. So we could go to the mall again on Saturday, dude. We're back. Hot topic. Man, that was a good time, dude. We just sleep in tents outside. And just to be at the mall, man. And they had Structure, you know. But the funny thing was, at Christmas, they only had about 5 different styles in there. So you come back from Christmas break and you'd have 9 dudes all wearing the same shirt, you know. So all of a sudden, everybody was just wearing the same shit. But those are the days, man. That's how it was, dude. Camping out, going to the mall. What else, man? This dude, he shot the guy who shot up the airport, the baggage claim. God, man. Oh, I always wonder what I would do in this situation. I was watching one of the videos. Some lady hid in front of something. Like the guy shooting. If you've seen the video on CNN, she hid in front of one of the smart cart things. Jesus. Like, hopefully I'd have, and I know you're overcome by the circumstances, but hopefully I'd have a little more gravitas to hide behind something, I know. I mean, getting your bags is frustrating, but that dude really, that's set off, man. Come on. And he had a gun. Apparently the dude had went crazy, that he had went into, in Alaska, he'd been in the military, and the FBI or at some checkpoint or some appointment he'd had to check in for, they'd taken his gun from him. He said, you can't have a gun anymore because of his mental condition. But then a month later, they gave it back to him for some reason. And that was the gun he used. Oh, that was the gun he used, man. I'm okay with people having guns. I'm okay with it, But they should have us. They should have a big black lady in charge of all the guns. I want a real black woman in charge of all the guns, because those ladies don't take any bullshit, Oh, you ain't getting a gun, boo. You ain't getting a gun. That's what I want, dude, because that's what they need. They need somebody. You should have to really look somebody in the eyes before you get a gun, dude. And nobody takes no bullshit or can read no bullshit like a strong black woman, man. That's what I think, dude. That's what I think, bro. That's what I think. What else, man? I watched the football. Fucking easy games. Everybody thought was gonna win. I can't wait. Did win this past weekend. Dude, I can't wait for the Steelers and Kansas City. That's gonna be a game. That's gonna be a game, man. That's gonna be a game. What else happened this weekend, man? Trying to think of really what occurred, man. Nothing crazy exciting went down, I guess. We did the adult sex. It was good. But at a certain point, I'm kind of like, banging isn't like my favorite pastime. Like some dudes are just trying to get, just chase some trim all the time. I'm okay with it. You get a little bit of trim here, you get a little bit of trim there, but it's not, I'm not addicted to it like some kind of, And after you're banging for a little bit, it's kind of like, okay, we get it. Nobody's going to win a prize, really. You hope everybody gets off, and that's kind of the deal. So, I wish there was more to it sometimes. Like you really got to, like everybody won a bag of fuck fatty, or everybody, you got a prize, or you bang so hard that, like a gumball popped out of your lady's mouth or something like that. I wish there sometimes was more to it. Sometimes just the bang, 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 and it's like, how many different ways can I do this? I don't know. Maybe something's wrong. I'm saying this. If I'm saying that there's something wrong with sex, maybe there's something wrong with me. I don't know. Bruh. But it was good, man. It was nice to, just be involved, just feel some sensuality, And I feel I stand off the pornography. That's really coming back into my bones, coming back into my soul, man. Because that pornography will really get you, man. Because you can get down them rabbit holes. What else, man? That's pretty much it, dude. That's it, really, I think. But we're gonna get the podcast better. We're gonna get video. We're gonna get different stuff going on. I'm open to any suggestions, any thoughts, any ideas. If you have any questions you want answered on the next one, post them. Post them wherever you are seeing this or reading this. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, post them up. I'll get to them, I'll put them in. Let's get it, get some conversation, going. Anything else crazy that happened? Ooh, I got Invisalign. Went to the dentist, Invisalign, they got the braces I was talking about when I was younger. I had, just a fantastic mouth. And the crazy part is I kind of wish I had my old teeth now. While I have more, confidence as an adult, I wish I had my original grill. Because, they were, now it really kind of set me apart. It's more unique. But at the time, I just felt, like, I was afraid to smile. It's tough when your teeth are, you don't love your teeth. It's tough because you're afraid to smile. And if you're not smiling, man, you're not feeling, you start a smile, that smile kind of resonates through your body, but you don't have, you get feeling awkward or uncomfortable, man. You don't smile, and then that really can kind of shut down the rest of your feelings right there. So that was a lot of my youth was like that, man. Just hating the way that I looked for some reason. I mean, I hated everything about myself really growing up. I mean, I had a ton of self-loathing, but as I've gotten to be an adult, I've really started to get worked through some of that, But I ended up getting Invisalign, man. I talked to my dentist about it. I went in the other day for a cleaning. She'd ordered them. So now I just got them. I guess that's the new thing. Like, just, order something for somebody, and then, if it's like a dealership. They call you like, hey, stop by. You get there and they already got you a car. You got to pay for it, of course. I mean, I got to pay for this deal. But yeah, I'm wearing them. I'm excited. I don't have them in right now, but after I brush my teeth after this coffee, I'm going to get into some. And what else? There was something else I was going to tell you guys that happened. Oh, I did a little manscaping. You got to tighten up. I use a number 2 around the top of the happy sack and everything. My penis was starting to look like a fucking wise raccoon with a big nose. My penis was starting to look a little, almost like it was considering things. It really had some whiskers around it, like it was Hasidic. It really just had those long braids on the side almost. I'd love to cornrow my pubic hair at some point. I don't know if anybody does that. If there's any ladies out there, in any community that do that, I wouldn't mind maybe getting some of that done. So that's where I'm at, man. I'm stoked for this week. We got Margaret Cho, Adam Carolla, and some other guests that are coming on the podcast. Interviewing them tomorrow. Really excited to go talk with Adam. He has me on his podcast sometimes. And Margaret Cho, I've been seeing a lot of her recently. I saw her a couple times this weekend. I had dinner with John Murray this weekend. That was really surprising. He created the Real World and Road Rules. A lot of people don't know or do know I was a cast member on Road Rules when I was young, when I was 19. And so here I was. It was cool. I mean, he and I have kept in touch over the years, and he's always been really supportive. Such a smart guy, and it was just cool to be at a table with him and sit there and really get to chop it up and talk about shows these days and just everything, man. He also made that. I mean, he made every show, like so many reality shows. I mean, I can't even name them. Probably like 40 shows, maybe more. But we're talking about Bad Bitches Club or whatever that show is. It's just like bad bitches just being bad. So anyway, that was interesting, man. Just to get to spend some time around that dude. What else, bro? I'm tired, man. I'm tired, bro. I want to rest. I always want to rest, dude. And I've been watching that show Disappeared. You ever seen that show? It's on Hulu, and it comes on television, Investigative Discovery. And each episode is about somebody that went missing, and then guess what? They're still missing. But I love those kind of shows, man. Like, for some reason, I love like those investigative discovery, murder your neighbor, treasure hunter shows. That kind. I can't sleep. I literally cannot fall asleep at night unless I know that somebody really got killed or there's a missing treasure. Like those, it's like I gotta have it, man. It's like my addiction, dude. What else? Got some new movies in the mail from the SAG people. La La Land. That's what everybody says is the best one. It won a lot of awards. Won a lot of awards. And Jackie. Fences. I watched Fences is the one with Denzel Washington. I watched Manchester by the Sea, bro. Whoo! Man. If you haven't seen Manchester by the Sea, you should watch it. Also, there's a documentary out there called Dear Zachary or Letters to Zachary. It's on Netflix. That and Manchester by the Sea are two of the saddest pieces of film I've ever watched, man. If you want to just get a little bit sad, bro, and just really get into your feelings, and just navigate within your sadness and kind of feel that, maybe your eyes kind of spray out a little bit, get some salt water out of your system, dude. That'll do it, bro. Wow, both of those really good. Casey Affleck's amazing, dude. Amazing. It was really, really cool to see. So yeah, man, that was this past weekend, dude. That's what's going on. That's kind of where I'm at. Feeling good off the pornography. Did some adult sex, feeling good. We'll see kind of how that kind of pans out or whatever, but that's that. And yeah, and that's it, man. Just trying to stay in gratitude, man. Trying to just stay feeling blessed for the things that I do have in my life. It's tough to do. I try to remind myself every day of the little things that I do have that keep me excited. Try not to get involved in the negative stuff. And just try and keep, working with the gifts that God gave me, I'm just trying my best, man. Life ain't easy. I don't think it's easy for anybody. I don't think it's easy for anybody. So I try to remember that, trying to anyway. I mean, every day is a battle. Every moment is a battle. Just trying to put things in place that help me get through the battles, and not even to win. I just want to come out even. I want everybody to come out even. I'm not trying to beat anybody. I'm just trying to stay the best I can with myself, man. That's where I'm at. I did Coco Diaz's podcast, Joey Diaz. I was on the Church of What's Happening Now the other day. Bro, that's good, dude. Man, getting in there with little Lee Syatt, dude. The freaking high hamster Lee Syatt, that guy. We had a blast, man. We went deep, told some stories about, I was a bedwetter. I was a bedwetter most of my life. We got into that. So if you want to check that out, you can check it out on Joey Diaz's podcast, Church of What's Happening Now. If you have any thoughts or questions or anything about you want to ask me or get at me, man, throw it at me. We're going to get better. We're going to get some video. I don't know if doing a podcast is for me like this. I really like being a guest. I really like being a guest on people's podcasts, but I don't know if I should have my own podcast because sometimes I don't know if I have enough really to talk about, I'm just really still trying to decide some of my point of views on things, I don't really know what makes me mad, mainstream media makes me mad, that's for sure, dude. I'm so sick of them, bro. Damn. If anybody still believes the news, you're out of your brain. Make your own choices. Make your own choices. But be good to yourselves, man. Be good to yourselves because it starts there, Be good to yourselves because you probably deserve it. You probably deserve it. And that's it, man. Those are the dates, dude, coming up. February 26th through 29th, Virginia Beach. At the Funny Bone, I'll be at the Chicago Improv in Schaumburg, February 2nd through 4th. Sorry, that's January 26th through 29th in Virginia Beach. Chicago, February 2nd through the 4th. Denver, Comedy Works South, February 23rd through 26th. And that's it. If you want to grab some bra gear, I got some bra shirts and lady bra shirts online, theovon.com/store. All my tour dates are at theovon.com/tour. And he's Korean, And he is, and Koreans, they seem very, it seemed like they have secrets in them. And I've always felt that sometimes about a lot of Asian people. And this can be me being judgmental, but this is also just me exploring my thoughts here, is that, when you see an Asian, you kind of, for me, I get a sense of wonderment. I got a sense of peacefulness. Staring at two Asians or three Asians, it's almost like meditating for a minute. It's almost just as effective when you see the docileness, that docility that the heavens and that the Lord have packaged in, to a Korean or to a Laotian. You see them just, oh man, it's pretty remarkable. It's pretty remarkable sometimes to see an Asian and to feel that inquisitiveness about what's going on in there. And I've always wondered what it would be like to be Asian and what it feels like. And I actually got to talk to him about that a little bit, and it was pretty cool to get some of his take on there over at The Fighter and the Kid, and to spend time with Brendan Schaub. He said he's sick. He said he have a little bit of something. I don't know what it is. Something got him. Something got up in his system. He wears a lot of fancy clothes and different types of fancy wool on his body. If you guys don't know who this man is, his name is Brendan Schaub, and he was a fighter. You know, and he was one of those men that would get into those cages and those dirty cages, because some of them look dirty. If you look at them on maybe the television, I might be watching in only 720p or something, but some of them cages look like they don't really dust all the bars and everything on them. And these men get in there and they're fighting, and you know, and some of them look like they have ear infections and all kinds of shit, and they're tatted up and they're in there just beating the damn bile out of each other's assholes. And he was one of those guys, and he didn't die or anything, and he's, you know, mentally he's alert, you know, and I don't know if he might have to wake up every day and hit those smelling salts just to get his day going, I don't know. But he seems active and coiffed. He's very, you know, he's coming in a little bit French. If you look at him, he's very coiffed up. You know, he has special types of gels and lotions on his ears and his whole skin and everything. You know, it's almost like, you know, like something, like they just dip him in some type of a fancy tub of damn fucking Guatemalan space chemicals or something in the morning, and it just leaves him fresh. You know, it looks like he's the kind of dude that kind of washes his ass with coconut water. You know, he's a little bit fancy like that, but he was a fighter. So there's these two elements to him where he's, you know, coming in kind of French. And then he also has this element where you know he's been through the battles of men. But he wears a lot of fancy, different types of wool and shit, you know, fancy attire. Could be alpaca, could be Mogadishu. You know, I'm not sure what types of furs and stuff he wears, but he, you know, he has a lot of fancy footwear, and he might have cufflinks at his house. You know, somewhere in his closet, he might have a shelf that's starting to come out of the wall a little bit because it has so many cufflinks on it, heavy cufflinks. Because he has strong arms too, he could probably hold up some heavy cufflinks. But he's one half of the duo called the Fighter and the Kid, and it was nice to be in there. And Brian is his partner, and they're non-sensual partners. They're just work partners, associates, and friends. And their podcast is called The Fighter and the Kid. If you haven't got to check it out, I recommend that you do check it out. And but Brian couldn't be there today because he's an actor. And I've known Brian Callen is his name, and I've known him since I came into town. And he was always like this guy that I really looked up to. He just has a charisma. You know, he has a spark in his eyes. He has two sparks, one in each eye. And it's like, trying to think of what it feels like when you're around him. It's almost like he has this grin and stuff, like he's up to no good, and he probably is up to no good, but he's also at the same time up to good. And that's the vibe that I've always gotten around him. But I've always admired him as a performer, and I remember seeing him on Entourage, the television program. And I've always admired seeing him, but anyway, he couldn't be in there today because something happened to him. And so I was able to go in there and be a guest associate in there today. And it was fun. We had a nice time. And that's one thing that's been like a blessing, I guess, in this podcast universe, is that you just get to have conversations with people. You know, for so long in my life out here in Los Angeles, and even probably just in my regular life, there was something I couldn't conversate very well. I couldn't sit there and listen to someone. Sometimes I couldn't hear people. You know, I really just was so just stuck inside of my head that I couldn't hear. I could hear them. I could hear the sounds, and I knew what they were saying, but I couldn't ever internalize or really be involved in the conversation. And it's been nice with some of these podcasts to sit in a room for a while with another man, and nobody's doing cocaine or nobody's trying to touch each other's privates or, you know, pretend the lights went out so they could, you know, try and touch each other's underarms or anything like that, and just enjoy their company, and also not feel that pressure. Because out here in Los Angeles, there's a lot of pressure on straight men to let men out there, you know, to turn around, to get into that, just to throw your dick out into the, it's a lot of pressure out here. I don't want to say it's gay pressure, but you get out here in some of these environments and, there'll be a dude trying to trick you into just throwing your dick up in the air to see who will catch it. And it's like, I know who will try and catch it. You will. You will, brother. And so a lot of times, a lot of gay men will be like, well, this fella's trying, gay men a lot of times will be like, I didn't choose to be gay. It's part of nature. And I believe that 100%. I think it's very, to me, it seems narrow to believe that people who are gay don't want to, that they chose that. Now, I think these days we are getting into more times where people are choosing whatever they want, whatever they feel like that evening, If they want a little bit of that, a little bit of that freaking brown-eyed girl, then they might find another man. If they want that Hershey, that little Hershey peephole, they might find another man for their night. But internally, I think men who are gay are born that way. And so you have a lot of men out here who will be like, well, I didn't choose to be this way. This is not choice. This is Mother Nature. This is the way I am. And and I respect that. That's them. That's who they are. But then it's wild because you'll be at a bar and you'll have a gay gentleman trying to get you to trying to be gay. And I'm like, whoa, buddy bear. I'm not gay. And he'll be like, well, how do you know? Because, dude, when I look deep into your eyes, dude, or when you look deep into my eyes, I want to defend myself. That's why. But it's crazy sometimes. A lot of gay dudes, the gay dudes are keen because they're still dudes. They still going to try to get what they want to get. They're still going to try to maneuver and block and parry and, assault and, and not assault, but just, take action, defense, to try to catch that hit of seed, to try to get another man to spray out. And so it's, you got to beware out here of men. Because that's for straight men in LA, that's the pressure circle comes around when the gentlemen show up and they're fancy and they want to be fancy with you, but you don't want to. I remember I had a manager that set me up with and I think I've talked about this before. I had a manager who set me up with a agent. And this gentleman trying to take me out to the club. And I'm thinking, I'm young, I'm new in town, my hair still had all of its full natural color. From God, that straight up Roy G. Biv that he dropped into my skull was still fully evident in my mane. And this man, I remember him when he's trying to be fancy in the club and get me tall drinks. Drinks that have 2 drinks in 1 drink. Double drinks. And I'm just, kind of, I'm wise, I'm keen, but I'm also, I'm wanting to make it and holler. I got those kind of desires and thoughts in my head. And this man, he had a convertible car. And so, he's got me trying, he's driving me home and he's putting that convertible top saying he likes how my hair seems wild, And he put his hand over on my leg and kind of squeezed on my leg a little, like when he made a joke. Almost like a dad with a kid, if you make a funny joke and you squeeze your child's thigh a little bit or something, and that's safe area if it's you and your child, and that's just comfortable hand activity. But this fella, he had me feeling uncomfortable. But that's sometimes something you have to worry about out here as a straight man. And Terry Crews actually came out about it. They have a lot of this, the Me Too campaign going on, or not campaign, but people sharing the experiences that have happened to them and some horrid experiences. But then you also got experiences coming out now. Like this dude asked me out once. What a piece of shit. Like, well, come on. What's he supposed to do? He's just trying to be a man. He's just trying to be a man. But as a straight man out here in Los Angeles, that's where it comes around for you a lot of times is gay men out here trying to be wild. And no disrespect to gay men at all. You know, I have one of my best friends, Matthew Cole Weiss, is a gay gentleman. And and I love him to death, man. You know, I know that he's had a ton of struggles. One of the same places that he and I struggle is with depression. And that's one of the things that made us be friends in the first place. I mean, he had a roller skating party. This dude, this girl I knew, and she was a little thick, kind of, you know, round in the chest, you know. No real tits, but a lot of fucking sternum. Sometimes that sternum stacks up so much in the front, it's just nipples on bone out there. And she had that. You know, not even A, B, C's, or D's, just, you know, just a couple of just fucking nipples holding their own, you know, rooted in bone. And she took me to a party. And it was his birthday party, and there was men out there. Everybody was roller skating. And years later, he'd be like, well, how did you know that I was gay when he, you know, because I think, you know, it seems like when you're a gay man, and we'll have as soon as we can get some guests in here, we're going to start getting into some questions and really being able to talk to people that are different than me so that I can, you know, have some experiences with these people and learn more about what it's like to really live in somebody else's shoes. But he said, well, how did you know I was gay? I said, man, well, I had an inkling. You know, I'm no fucking MacGyver, but I had an inkling when you was having a roller skating birthday party at the age of 26. That, you know, that was a fucking, you know, that was a dime in the tip jar right there. But yeah, that's one thing you got to worry about out here as a straight male is the other men coming around. And it's big now. It's a sexual harassment. And with all these allegations and everything out there, it does make me wonder. It makes me think back on some of my own past, you know, some of my own choices. And I've never been violent with women. You know, I had an instance when I was in high school when I got extremely drunk at a party and I blacked out. I don't remember this. And when I blacked out, if I was at a party, I like to try and find the nicest car at the party. And if the keys went, I like to take that bitch for a spin. You know, because I got the dark arts living down inside of me. I got the jester of death down there juggling oranges in my soul. And he will, when I'm out, when I shut down up top in the brainstem because of that liquor, he will take me for a ride. You know, he'll go out there and find the nicest car and take that bitch around the block. You know, because he wants to endanger me. But I remember being at this party, and next thing I know, my buddy, you know, he was like kind of a defense kind of boy in our town, and he had a little bit of that DS, that Down syndrome. And I actually talked about this today on Brennan Schaub and The Fighter and the Kid. My buddy heard that, you know, that I had gotten physical with this girl at this party, you know, and he said, you know, you hit this girl, you know, and I have no recollection of this at all. I'm not saying that I wasn't responsible for it. But I mean, when I saw her the next day, she didn't have, you know, it wasn't like she said, you pushed me down. And that hurt, man. It hurt to know that if I wasn't in control of myself, that the actions that could come out of me. But also what hurt was the dude that put me in, the dude that came and accosted me about it when he heard about it. He put me in a chokehold. And I don't know if you've ever been in a chokehold of a fella that has Down's syndrome or Down syndrome. I don't know what they're calling it these days, but he fucking put me in that hitter, boy, in that hard scarf, he called it. You know, he put that fucking hard scarf on me, and I couldn't, man. But anyhow, you know, I'm rambling, but I want to get into some of the calls that have come in. But it does, when you hear about these sexual allegations and this and that, it does make you start to think in your own life, where there are times when I was out of line, where there are times when a girl wanted to leave my place and I was, being wild. And sometimes that's not a problem. Sometimes that's normal chain of command. That's normal what's going on as a man behavior. I'm not going to, part of man is that, that samba, You come close, I'll back up. You back up, I'll come close. And on and on and on and on until somebody's, skeeting out or, sloshing out of themselves. And that's part of the party. But it's when, it just makes me think. And that's okay. These times are okay. They make us think. But it'd be interesting, when some of these allegations come out, I would also like to see how many, I know there's female predators out there as well. There's some shady babies out here. There's some shady babies out here in the mangroves. You know what I'm saying? And there's some ladies out here who can, who got women out there, feeding them soup out of their vagines and all of that, doing all kinds of crazy stuff. And they got women out there who are, a lot of women have probably approached a lot of these men and tried to fuck their way up. And I think that's that missing element that needs to also be shared so that we can see that the cycle. Because a lot of times everybody wants to complete, 70% of the equation, but they don't want to put in that 30% that doesn't tell their story fully or that doesn't fill in the whole realm. And I think that we got to start filling in the whole realm and being honest about what's going on across the board. But this episode, we usually on Thursday, we do some follow-up. We had a call that came in on the Monday morning episode, and this is what it was. And I'm gonna play that for you right now, and then we're going to get into some of you guys' responses. You guys hit the hotline with some great responses. The hotline is 985-664-9503. If you have a thought about the podcast, a question, if you have a fear, a concern, you can share your name, you cannot share your name. Just know that if you hit the hotline, that we may then use that call on the show. I just want you guys to know that. But anybody out there that needs help, needs some groupthink, I'm happy to share any suggestions that I have. I don't have all the answers. I don't have actually fucking any of the answers, dude. I'm 37 years old, boy. And I'm out here driving this struggle bus, son. All aboard. Here we go. This was the call that came in from Andrew on Monday. All right, here we go.
My name is Andrew from Prince Edward Island, Canada. I want to address a dark arts. My wife is overweight. I was overweight. We both agreed on it. I've lost the weight and she hasn't. And there's no way for me to bring it up without being the asshole or the emotional abusive man. But I'm just not attracted to her and I don't want to fuck her. So I do turn to porn a lot. I don't know. I'm just attracted to a certain thing. And she was it and now she's not. And I don't know how to tell her she's got to get back to that.
Wow. And that was the call, and that was heavy, Andrew, and we got some calls that came in for you, man, and I want to get into those. Also want to let you guys know that I'm going to be performing. I want you to let you know I'm performing this weekend, January 11th through the 14th at the Brea Improv. January 18th through 20th, I'm at the New Comedy Club in Jacksonville, Florida. February 8th through 11th, I'm at Harvey's in Portland, Oregon. And that's that Pacific Northwest up there where people are fucking drinking pine tree juice. And people are putting, wearing flannel hats and shit and, rolling their babies in fish tears and all of that shit. February 16th through the 18th, I'll be in La Jolla, California at the Comedy Store. February 22nd through the 24th, Indio, California, Fantasy Springs Casino. And also in March, I'll be in Tacoma, March 22nd and 23rd, I believe. And March 15th, 16th, and 17th, I'll be at Tacoma and Spokane. At Spokane on the 17th. And those will be going up on theovon.com/tour. Okay, Andrew, we had that call come in, and I want to get some of you guys' responses for Andrew. I hope you're listening, Andrew. If you're not Andrew and you're somebody that has had a similar circumstance, which, man, I think we can all, relate in the way that we've wanted our spouse or someone we care about to be different. And here's some responses. Here we go.
Hey, the guy, I think his name's Andrew. If you're unhappy with your chick because of the way she looks, you need to take a long, hard fucking think about what you're doing. And I'm going to tell you what not to do, because I was in that position.
Ooh, this feels like it's going to be good. Let's go.
At no point do you tell her it's because of her fucking weight. Find another avenue, because I did that to my ex-wife, and it crushed her. Well, women are more sensitive than we are, so you're right not to let her know. Marriage to them means for better or for worse, for real. She's at her worst. You loved her for better. Now where you at?
Wow. Man, I appreciate that call, man. Sorry about that. That's my email. I really appreciate that's a good call. And that's for real, Yeah, it's like, who do we... Man, because I know I've been a piece of shit, and people have still loved me. And you know what's the wildest is, that's when you really learn who loves you. That's when you really learn who loves you. When I'm, in the gym and I got the abs going and I'm feeling great about myself and I got my medication, the milligrams are on point, and I'm feeling, vibrant, and I got a new shirt. Yeah. Oh, it's easy everybody loves me then. But when I haven't brushed my teeth in 3 days because I'm not feeling good, and I'm wearing a shirt that's wrinkled because, I didn't feel like I put it in the dryer 2 days ago, but then I got depressed and took a nap or didn't, take all my responsibilities and stay on top of my game. And I'm wearing the same pants and belt because my belt's fucking broken and I tied it. And I've been jerking off so much I'm too weak to even untie that belt off of me around my waist. So I got the same pants on because I ain't got enough strength in my arms because I'm skeeted out. My energy's all sprayed out of my wiener. Then what? When somebody still loves you then. And that's a good call, man. I appreciate you saying that because that makes me think. I needed to hear that. Because I certainly have somebody, in my life who's loved me at some of my toughest moments. In moments where I felt like I was alone, or moments where I probably would have had some fear, or been, I'll be real, been scared, going into a surgery or going into a tough day. And they called or they checked in.